The Zephyrian Council had made their decision in the crystalline chambers beneath their homeworld's surface. Ambassador Elena Vasquez of Terra was becoming too influential, too persuasive in the Galactic Senate. Her words carried weight that threatened their carefully constructed web of alliances and trade monopolies. "The human speaks of unity," hissed Councillor Thys, her serpentine form coiled around the central pillar. "She makes the other species believe in cooperation over subjugation." "Then we silence her," declared High Counselor Vex, his four arms, gesturing emphatically. "Permanently." They selected their finest, 5 assassins from different worlds, each a master of death in their own right. Krex the Void Walker, who could phase through matter itself. Silent of the Shadow Clan, whose very presence drained light from existence. The mechanical nightmare known as Unit 77, built solely for termination. Yazara the Poison Weaver, whose touch could corrupt any biological system. And finally, Gorvak the Seer, whose precognitive abilities made him nearly impossible to surprise. The contract was simple. Eliminate the human envoy during her transport to the neutral station, Harmony 7. Make it look like pirates. Leave no witnesses. Elena sat in the observation deck of the diplomatic transport Concordia, reviewing her notes for the upcoming trade negotiations. The stars streaked past in familiar patterns, a sight that never failed to calm her before difficult discussions. She'd spent 3 years building relationships across the galaxy, slowly convincing species after species that cooperation yielded better results than conquest. Her aide, a young Altarian named Zeph, approached nervously. "Ambassador, we're detecting an unmarked vessel on an intercept course." Elena's training kicked in immediately. She'd been a tactical officer before joining the diplomatic corps, and old habits died hard. "Alert Captain Morrison, full defensive. Protocols." But it was too late. The assassins had already breached the hull. Krex materialized first in the engine room, his ethereal form solidifying just long enough to sabotage the hyperdrive. The ship lurched violently as it dropped back into normal space. Silanth appeared on the bridge, shadows writhing around him as the lights began to fail. Unit 77 carved through the cargo bay with mechanical precision, while Yazara infiltrated life support, her toxic essence beginning to poison the air itself. The crew fell quickly, too quickly. Within minutes, only Elena remained, trapped in the observation deck as the 5 killers converged on her position. They found her standing calmly by the viewport, hands behind her back, watching their approach with curious eyes rather than fear. "Ambassador Elena Vasquez," Gorvak intoned, his third eye glowing as he probed the immediate future for threats. "By order of the Zephyrian Council, your interference ends here." Elena nodded thoughtfully. 5 of you. Impressive. They really don't want me making that speech tomorrow, do they?" Krex phased forward, becoming solid as his claws reached for her throat, only to pass harmlessly through empty air. Elena had moved faster than even Gorvak's precognition could track, her diplomatic robes hiding the enhanced reflexes of her military past. "Here's something about humans you might not know," she said conversationally, now standing behind Yazara. The Poison Weaver spun around, toxic spores erupting from her palms, but Elena was already gone. "We're persistence hunters." Unit 77's targeting systems locked onto her heat signature, missiles launching in perfect calculated trajectories. Elena twisted between them like water, each movement flowing into the next with impossible grace. The explosions illuminated her. Smile. We don't give up, she continued, as Silent's darkness engulfed the room. But humans had evolved in caves, had learned to fight in absolute darkness. Elena's other senses painted a perfect picture of the room, and her hand found the emergency. Lighting controls. Blazing white light flooded the chamber, and Silent screamed as his shadow form began to dissipate. Gorvak's eyes widened as his visions showed him fragments of futures, none of them ending well for the assassins. Impossible! You're just a diplomat! Elena caught Krex's wrist as he tried to phase through her again, her grip somehow maintaining contact with his ethereal form. She'd studied xenobiology extensively, learning the weaknesses of every species she negotiated with. Diplomacy is just war by other means, and humans excel at war. She twisted, and Krex's arm snapped with a wet crack. Before he could retreat into intangibility, Elena's other hand found his throat. Iron supplements, she explained calmly, makes the blood magnetic, interferes with phase abilities. Yazara lunged desperately, but Elena caught her wrist, redirecting the assassin's momentum into Unit 77's hull. The mechanical killer's own reflexes turned against him as his defensive systems activated, crushing Yazara against his armored frame. 2 down. Gorvak tried to read Elena's next move, but her mind was a storm of possibilities, each more violent than the last. She'd spent years learning to think like her negotiation partners, to anticipate their moves. Now she turned that same adaptability against them. Unit 77 recalibrated, his weapon systems spinning up to full power. Elena smiled and pressed the emergency airlock release. The observation deck's viewport exploded outward, and the mechanical assassin was torn into space by the decompression. His screams cut off abruptly in the vacuum. 3 down. Silent, barely corporeal in the harsh light, made one last desperate attack. Elena stepped aside and activated the UV sterilization system. The shadow being's agonized shriek echoed through the ship as he dissolved into nothingness. 4 down. Only Gorvak remained, backing against the bulkhead as Elena approached. His precognitive abilities showed him every possible future, and in each one he died. Please, he whispered. I'll tell them you're dead. I'll say we succeeded. Elena studied him for a long moment. No. You'll tell them exactly what happened. Here. You'll tell them that humans don't back down when threatened. You'll tell them that if they want war, they'll get war. But if they want peace, they'll find no better allies. She helped him to an escape pod, even bandaging a cut on his arm. As he prepared to launch, she leaned close to the pod's viewport. And Gorvak? Tell them this was me being diplomatic. The pod launched into space, carrying its terrified passenger back to Zephyrian space. When Gorvak delivered his report to the Council, his words were met with stunned silence. 3 days later, the Zephyrian Council formally requested to join the human-led peace negotiations. Elena's speech at Harmony 7 was delivered to the largest assembly in galactic history. Her message of cooperation and mutual respect was broadcast across 1,000 worlds. But it was the whispered stories of what happened to the assassins that truly convinced the galaxy that humanity was a species worth respecting and too dangerous to cross. In the end, they learned what humans had always known. Sometimes the most effective diplomacy comes at the end of a very big stick.